Hi everyone, my name is Lucy and this is Memory Keeper Journals. Today I'm going to be working on prompt number 8, which is the word observe. And the first thing that came to my mind was like cameras, because we're always observing and looking for things to take pictures out of. And I remembered that I had a whole digital from Mrs Cogs with black and white pictures that had to do with cameras, from vintage cameras. So I thought that would be like the perfect picture to use. Plus, I was in the mood for vintage style, so I decided that I was going to use a lot of the vintage scrap papers that I have, or antique ones, and the different color of hues of each of the papers, which is like the white and the cream and the beige. And so I wanted to use that as a background and go ahead and do a total collage on the page. And at first I was only going to use one side or one page only for the project that I was working on, but in turn I ended up doing 2 pages with collaging. I just felt like I needed to continue going, but it's okay. I am in the mood for vintage style, so I might do the same thing on the next page too. I've been trying to use all of the scraps that I have on my desk, so that to minimize how many scraps I have in that box, and not continue adding and overflowing it and having to create another box just for scraps. So I think that Junk Journal July is a very good idea, where you can use everything that you got left over and come up with something. And so it opens up that imagination, and the fact that Junk Journal July is for that specific reason, for you to be able to craft freely and come up with new ideas, or come out of that out of the box kind of deal, where you can do something that you've never done before. And so one of those is just to get rid of my scraps, because I always have so many, and I end up having to figure out, what do I do? Stamping, or fussy cutting, and then doing like belly bands, or there's a lot of things that we can do with it, but not all the time is going to match with whatever project you're using. If you have a lot of digitals that you have in your box, or scrap papers that are from like those paper pads, they might not match with whatever project you're doing. So besides that, I sometimes have them there, and I create little things here and there for my grandkids anyway, so they can use it in their journals. And they love it, because I just bring out a whole pile of paper on the table, and they can come up and create envelopes or tags or little pockets here and there. So that's what they did this past week when they were here. So it does help to get rid of a lot of those scrap papers that I have saved and I haven't used at all for a while. I did get to find a really cool piece of envelope left over that I had. It was like the back of it, and it's one of the vintage envelopes that I was using in one of my projects, and I didn't know it was in that scrap box. So I was like, this is perfect. So I created a pocket with it, and I put the tag with this photo that I showed you before, the black and white. And I am starting to do a lot of the layering, because I love that tattered style and layering and all, just like when we watch Ruby and Pearl, and watching her videos on creating them, or Heather. They both do so good with that, and I've always loved that style. Like, I bought that journal from Heather at Rose Hill Paper Cottage, and I love looking at that video, not video, but my journal, over and over and over. I just love it, and I'm working on it too. So it does give me the motivation and the inspiration to do the same thing for the journals that I'm working on. The difference with mine is, yes, it's a bit tattered, but it's not so tattered like theirs. So of course my style is going to look a little bit different than theirs, which is fine, because we all have our own styles. But I'm just finding myself liking so much more the tattered look. I kind of lean towards it a lot more lately. And maybe it's because I'm working in that journal. Could be, I don't know. But you know, I'm a moody person, so sometimes it's all about the bright colors, and then another time it's still about the tea and journals that are small and for my leather book, and then the next time it's all the hard books, or I want to do spring or seasonal stuff, or if I'm in the mood or if I'm melancholy or whatever, then I'm doing something special in a journal. You know, it definitely has to do with my moods too. So yeah, pretty much. But anyway, I'm gonna let you enjoy watching the video and see the process of what I'm doing. I also wanted to let you know, oh yeah, doing this video, I didn't notice that my camera had moved a bit, so you can't see like the bottom portion, but I think in a specific uh, uh, a moment in the video, I end up actually fixing the camera in a way that you can see the bottom. I just hope that you get to see everything that I did so that you know more or less what was going on, because I didn't notice the bottom was not showing, but you can see the whole project. The whole thing was recorded, so it's good and it's clear. I do it early in the morning, so I have good lighting in the room at that time. So I just hope that this one actually inspires you to create something or do some collaging or even vintage style. So I will put some music and I'll let you enjoy, and I'll come back at the end of the video.